Hello fellow Star Wars fans, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Vader post-Mustafar. Now when I say post-Mustafar, I mean post the duel he had with Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Vader, I've always thought was an interesting character. Even whenever we really didn't know much about him, he felt tormented. Almost like a Frankenstein's monster. You know, he's in that armor. He needs a respirator to breathe. He moves around kind of clunky. So, for me, he was always that tragic character. That tragic monster. That the true evil holds on a leash. And knowing, or having seen the prequel series in movie theaters, and watching the character go from a young boy to a Jedi Padawan to a Jedi Knight to how just broken and desperate he became, and then to see him fail on Mustafar was tragic. Not that I was cheering for the villain, but he's an understandable villain. He's one of those, you can't even really call him evil. He's more just in over his head. But the fascination I have with Anakin's death and Vader's birth is what I'm going to talk about today. Now, the entity that was Anakin died on Mustafar when Palpatine found him. The power he had, the command of the Force, the abilities to do just God tier, things as a Jedi was gone. When Obi-Wan Kenobi said that, Vader's more machine now than man, there's more to that statement. Midichlorians live within living tissue, whether it's human, alien, water, soil, wood. Okay, there's a reason we call a tree and wood a wood. Wood's dead. There's nothing living in it. So much like Vader, when he lost one of his limbs and then both of his legs, and most of his body was covered in just savagely burnt tissue, the midichlorian count he had went down. So the sheer well he could draw from shrank. So what was Anakin, the super powerful entity, died. And that was one of the reasons Palpatine wanted to just leave him behind. He could feel the amount of the Force Anakin could now control was diminished. So now we have Anakin, scarred, broken, his wife is dead, his child is dead. Now he's riddled with the guilt that he killed both his wife and his kid. Just the idea of that is, I can't even fathom. On top of the fact that he's in a suit that is so painful that it's almost like he's living his death over and over and over again. And so now not only is he wrapped in self-hatred, but the bitterment of that defeat, coupled with the fact that Palpatine basically just left him alone. He didn't care, because Vader was spiraling in this whirlpool of self-pity, depression. There was none of that spark that made Anakin the general of the Clone War. That fiery rage that made him a great warrior. All that was gone. So the entity that was Vader had to be born from fire. Now whether Palpatine realized that, was going to give him the choice, I don't really know. It's not really documented. But for Vader, he literally had to learn everything all over again. He had to learn the Force. His command of the Force had to change. His fighting style had to change. He had to use the Force to speed up or slow down his cybernetic body. And so all of these things were needed for Vader to become this super badass that we know Vader as. You know, the Jedi hunter, that silent killer, the one he could stroll down into a command system or a command center in a Star Destroyer and everyone, pisses himself just a little bit. There had to be actions to justify what he was. And the fact that Vader, having been reborn from fire and pain, went through this crucible and emerged not as strong as Anakin was in the Force, but they were equal in their ruthlessness, in their cold, calculating nature of not just how to fly, but how to command armies. He knew how the Jedi thought. In fact, that anger of the Jedi Council denying him the chance to actually publicly marry Palpatine, or Padme, I'm sorry, to publicly marry her, fed the anger more than it fed the guilt. In Anakin's mind, or in Vader's mind, had the Jedi Council let him do it, there wouldn't have been a need for Padme to die. She would have been protected. Had the Jedi Council followed their own rules, they wouldn't have fallen. They wouldn't have gone after Palpatine. So Anakin's making all these excuses in his brain, all these rationalizations to justify and fuel his anger and his hatred, which gave birth to the entity known as Vader. But what are y'all thoughts? What do you think got Vader through the pain of his suit and his rebirth? Was it, depression? Was it anger? Was it hatred? Was it self-loathing? Was it a desire to die? He was just gonna fight till there was nothing left. Let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll see y'all in the next one.